Dune, the building of a dynasty. The planet Arrakis, known as Dune. Land of sand. Home of the spice, melange. The spice controls the empire. Whoever controls Dune controls the spice. The Emperor has proposed a challenge to each of the houses.
The house that produces the most spice will control Dune. There are no set territories and no rules of engagement.
Vast armies have arrived. Now, 3 houses fight for control of Dune. The noble Atreides. The insidious Ordos. And the evil Harkonnen. Only one house will prevail. Your battle for Dune begins now.
Yes folks, we're playing Dune II, The Building of a Dynasty, released at the tail end of 1992, developed by Westwood Studios and published by Virgin Games. And we'll launch straight in with Play a Game. This is the MS-DOS CD-ROM version, so that's why we heard those wonderful music tracks and had a kind of a slightly extended introduction with voice acting there. So you'll see that our first choice, our only real choice to begin the game, is to pick the house to which we're going to, I don't know if we'll pledge allegiance necessarily, but we'll work for them. We can choose Atreides, Ordos and Harkonnen, or as the introduction itself put it, noble, insidious or evil. How would you like to play? You might know that I've been playing through the Amiga version of this game on stream for a few weeks, and I've been playing House Ordos there, so I'm going to go for Atreides for this this look at the game. House Atreides. Caladan, home planet of the Atreides, has a warm, calm climate and the lands are lush and green. The rich soils and mild weather support an extensive variety of agricultural activities. In recent centuries, industrial and technological development has added to the prosperity of the Caledonian peoples. Do you wish to join House Atreides? Sure. Greetings, I'm your mentat Cyril. Hi Cyril. Together we will purge this planet of the foulness of the other houses. That's the kind of puritanical zeal I want from you. The High Command wishes you to produce 1,000 credits. You may earn credits by building a refinery and harvesting spice. That's clear, thank you. Okay, here we are. Ooh, I lost a... How did I lose a credit? That's interesting. So if you're not familiar with the game, you'll see here that we've got some menu options at the top. We can talk to our mentat. So this brings up Cyril, and essentially this is like an encyclopedia of both what our mission is, so our order briefing is there, A general snippet of advice. Let's see what. First, build a 4x4 group of concrete slabs. Then build a wind trap and place it upon the concrete. Do the same for a refinery so that you can reach your quota of 1,000 credits. I mean, that's a pretty blunt description of what you do, and Cyril is not incorrect there. And it will give us descriptions of the things we can buy and build. So, for example, the spice refinery here. Spice refinery converts spice into credits. I mean, that's as blunt a statement on this economic situation as you're going to get. A special sandworm. I don't think sandworm is going to be relevant in this level, but let's look at it. That's a cool illustration. These enormous creatures are attracted by vibrations on the surface and will often attack and devour both personnel and vehicles. Shai-Hulud, no known weakness. That's kind of an environmental threat that does come into play at some point. So that's what you get under that menu option. Under options, you've got general stuff that's controls outside the game. So you can load save. You can save at any time. The game controls, they're pretty basic. So I can't control the level of music or sound. Unfortunately, I can just toggle them on or off. Game speed. Now I'm not quite sure about that. You can go. There are 5 degrees, I think. Slowest, slow, normal, fast, and fastest. In my previous playthrough, that speed doesn't seem to affect in-game events, but rather construction speed. So I feel that fastest is probably the easiest one to go for. Hints are on. I'm not quite sure. Occasionally guidance messages do appear, especially when you're building something for the first time, so that might be what the hints are. An auto scroll I found helpful to turn off, because that allows you to move the viewable area around. You can see on the bottom right here we have a mini map. It might not be evident that that's what this is at this point, but that's a representation of the entirety of the map we're playing on, and the white box indicates what we're viewing at this time. So to move around on the main view, if you touch to the very edges of that view, so where the borders are on each side, if you have auto scroll on, it will just start scrolling at quite a fast speed in that direction. Oh, there you go. Things are happening.
Our base is under attack.
Notice the dynamic music change there to a battle theme.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna control a person. You see this? Whoa! Okay, they've already sabotaged me. That's fine. Let's. Oh, okay. No! Move! No, don't attack your own vehicle. That's silly. Okay. So I don't know how quickly that battle music will fade. I'll let it go into the background a bit while I go through some of these options again. You can restart the scenario if at some point you think you're in an unwinnable state. You can restart it there. Pick another house is essentially start the game from scratch. It doesn't give you any sort of interesting defection story options. It's just restart the game, choose a new house. Quit playing will just take you back to DOS. Continue game gets you back here. So as we saw briefly there, you can select a unit. This is I mean pretty advanced for its time, as it's can be an entirely mouse-driven interface. So you can click on a unit. So everything is pretty well color-coded. We're blue for Atreides. So we've got blue vehicles and blue soldiers. And there are usually 4 options for any one vehicle or troop that you're commanding. Typically move an attacker there. Retreat, I guess that would get them to automatically fall back to a safe base. And they do guard automatically, so if I were to move this soldier over to the south here, if I was worried about more of the green soldiers appearing, and they're automatically guarding. You can see it's highlighted in red there. So, I think this is one of the hints. Construction facility. All structures are built by the construction facility. So that's told us what's going on there. Things sustain damage over time, so you quite often see these repair signals come up. So I'll press repair, and you'll see the counter in the top right here is ticking down. That's our credits. And the nice thing about this version, over and above, say, the Amiga version, which is a more stripped down, bare bones affair, is that you get a lot more audio feedback for everything. You get more voice clips when you're radioing between the different units and commanding them to do things. You get more notifications when enemies are approaching and from what direction they're approaching. And you also get that nice ticker sound as your credits go up or down. So you're getting kind of a richer audio environment, especially as the soundtrack changes dynamically to what's happening. In the Amiga version, you just get kind of a low-key sort of ambient soundtrack that plays throughout, which is a bit less adrenaline pumping than what we get here, but is quite nice if you just want a relaxing time. Because part of this game is kind of a base management and construction phase, which is good. It's good for a chill time, really. So if you click on your construction site window, which was over there, you get to see a list of everything you can build. Currently, this is first level, first things we can build. So we get concrete slabs or a wind trap power center, and you'll see if anything needs a certain amount of concrete footing, or I guess a certain amount of squares to build. It's recommended that everything have a concrete footing. It will show here in this grid, so maximum of 9 is shown in the 3x3 grid. Typically the things I've found in the game so far take up either 4 or 6 squares, and the 6 has to be horizontal, it can't be vertical. So what we need to do at this stage is pretty straightforward and pretty predetermined. We need to build some concrete. So we'll do that there. You can see our
Construction complete.
money counted down. It's confirmed for us when we can place an item that's been constructed, and then we just locate it on the map. Anywhere where the square shows white, we can place it. Construction has to be adjacent to previous structures. So there's a little bit of time taken as things build, which is part of the tactical element.
Construction complete.
So what we'll do is we'll get some of that working.
Complete.
Great, so we've got a footing of 4 squares. We'll go back to the construction yard window. We can select the wind trap power center and build this. So once you have certain combinations of structures built, it opens up a sort of technology tree for you, so that you can then build more advanced structures. So this will flicker and come online. We're told that the construction yard is self-powered, so that everything else that we build subsequently does require fueling through a power station. So what we need to do next is get more concrete under construction. You'll find you'll be doing quite a lot of concreting.
Construction complete.
And I'm going to put a footing of 6 because that will be what our spice refinery requires. So I'll get that underway, and then
Construction complete.
as with certain portions of this game, it's kind of a bit of a waiting game at that point. It's once you're in a kind of defensible position, you're doing a lot to maintain the status quo, essentially, so you can get to your objective. There we go. So we've got squares of 4, so a square of 6. Sorry. I think it's advisable to build on the rock rather than the sand. And you can see this peppering of orange colour here. That's the spice that we'll need to harvest. So I'll build the spice refinery, and then we'll check on the construction yard and just see if there's anything else that's unlocked. I can't remember if in the very first stage they let you build anything else. As the game progresses, it gets progressively more complex. The maps get larger. you face greater opposition from opponent troops,
Construction
and
complete.
you can build a lot more options, a lot more useful options as well. So here we go, a carrier flies in, drops a harvester, and the harvester
Harvester
will
deployed.
automatically try and find...
Warning, enemy unit
Uh-huh.
approaching from the south.
I'll show you a little trick here. So the harvester
Warning.
essentially all auto harvest things, but does have... Oh, that was squishy. You didn't get that squishy sound in the Amiga version.
Acknowledge.
Okay, so we defeated that enemy with the harvester, because they can just do that. So you'll notice that I'm moving the visible view around, not with the mouse, but you can use the number pad keys as well. You can use all the outside ones to move diagonals and orthogonals, and get around that way, which I do find quite easy. But also when you're in this mode, it's quite handy to, if you need to go big distances, it's quite handy to use the mouse scrolling, I find, as well. Okay, so while that's chundering away, this is kind of what I was talking about. This is when the game enters a waiting phase. So you're probably protecting your base.
Reporting.
You can kind of change where you station guards if you think there's a direction from which the enemy might come. And you're just waiting for the harvester to get back to its base. It is
Reporting.
effectively an autonomous unit from its base. So if you have more than one harvester out, and a base were to get a refinery were to get destroyed, there was still one refinery. Two harvesters could periodically go back to that one refinery. And then later on in the game, you can independently build harvesters as well. So that offers you some flexibility for your income management. You notice we don't have many credits left, just 163. And the only way to get money in this game is to harvest spice, have it returned to the refinery, and then at that point you are credited for it. So, so we've only got those three options in this level. So if I wanted to amp things up, I could try to build a new footing. I think I could afford that, and then build a new spice refinery once I'd got some income from my current harvest. But in this level, there's really no need to do that. As long as you're happy to wait. The opposition is pretty small, and there's no need to build beyond this, really. So we'll let that...
Reporting.
Oh, it's 100% full already. That must have been a rich deposit. I think, subjectively, from my experience, I don't know this for certain, but I think some areas of spice are probably more dense, so the harvester will not have to travel so far to get fuller. That seems to be the case. So, so I guess the elements to manage are your resources. So you've got certain power needs that you need to make.
Atreides harvester deployed.
There we go. So we've got 863 credits. We're most of the way there. So I'll just let this thing do its thing, and then it seems to know where to go. And when that gets back, we'll have completed the mission. So you're managing both the finite resource of the spice, because there's only so much on the map, it doesn't regenerate. You're combating against whatever opposition is in the area, and that gets more aggressive as the game goes on. And that's kind of it. That's the battle for resources. So while we're doing that, and we've had a bit of a rundown of the game, I guess it's a good time to talk about all these gameplay elements, because essentially this is the codifying of what becomes known as the real-time strategy game, which is kind of strange for me, because I had never played this game before, but now playing it, even though I don't have great experience with our credits there, interesting. I don't have great experience with real-time strategy games. I played a lot of Stronghold at one point. I think I completed the single-player campaign for that. Played a bit of multiplayer with my friends at the time. and really enjoyed that. But I think that's the only real-time strategy game I've sunk any time into. I think the rest has just been flirtation with it. But I was taken aback by how easy I found it to read all the options in this game, and how intuitive they felt. So I think that's probably a mark of how effective this game was in codifying all the elements of this particular genre as we now know it, and and the influence it's had on subsequent games. Because following this, Westwood itself went on to make.
Is complete.
Thanks. Went on to make Command and Conquer. Blizzard went on to make Warcraft very soon after this. And there were further Dune games made by Westwood as well, in a similar vein. I knew that you would achieve your goal with very little trouble. Thanks for your confidence, Cyril. You did tell us exactly what to do, which was helpful. I look forward to assisting you in future missions. Oh, you're a cheerful person, aren't you? We've attained the rank of Desert Mongoose. Fantastic. So we had lots of action. The enemy had no action. I think that's pretty usual at this stage. Let's be cat. Battle 1, score 81. I assume that's good, I don't know. And we'll resume the game. Oh, so this is three houses have come to Dune to take control of the land that has become divided. The Atreides claimed strategic regions. House Ordos moved in on the east. Yeah, this is looking familiar from the Amiga version now. The Harkonnens invaded from the north. Select your next region. So yeah, so one of the I like the animated arrows. I think they're just white in the Amiga version. So this is definitely a more flashy version in some respects, graphically and in the audio terms. Yes, what was I saying? Yes, the mission map is one of the things that helps codify. So we get to choose where we go next. So we can try, interestingly, we can try kind of neutral territories, or one that's got the House Ordos in. So I might try that to see what happens. So I think there are 9 missions in the game, and it doesn't affect what your objectives are, which portion of the map you choose next. We have reports that you have been trading confidential information with the Ordos. You must answer a question quickly to prove your innocence. What type of structure is this? Ooh, coffee protection. I hadn't played far enough to get. I'm hoping I've remembered this correctly. Very good. I'm glad to see that our reports were wrong about you. I mean, I think I could be... I could know that and still be passing secrets. Greetings, I'm on to see you again. The High Command now requires that you produce 2,700 credits in a new harvesting area. Yeah, so this is the same mission that you'd get second time round, no matter who you were, what square you picked, but the map that you're playing on will have changed. Good luck. Thanks. Great, so let's get building. Oh, did you see that?
Complete.
House Ordos flyer come over very quickly. That was interesting, wasn't it?
Complete.
So while this is tickling along,
Construction complete.
so we'll get the same basic technology tree that we had before, which is kind of another element of these type of games. Probably most inspired by Civilization, I imagine.
Construction complete.
Let's pop our wind trap there. Do we know where the spice is? We know there's spice there, so I think it'd be good to put our refinery there. So you see we've got other things we can build. We can now build a radar outpost. So I will do that to show you what that does. So what I'll do is I think I'll get us to a certain stage of advancement, probably
Complete.
get the refinery and get that harvester travelling around,
Construction complete.
and then we'll have a little chat about the history of this game.
Construction complete. Construction complete.
So typically,
Construction complete.
as levels advance, you start off in a secluded area of a map
Construction complete.
with your construction yard and a few troops of different kinds, and you could start off with the same technology tree of building slabs, then power station and refinery, and then extra things will get added to that over time. And there's usually a phase where you'll be building and you'll want to harvest as much as resource as possible and get a reasonable cash flow, because you're going to need to build up combat resources as you face greater opposition in different areas.
Construction complete.
That tends to be the pattern. So you'll usually be engaged, I find, in construction for what feels like a few turns, although obviously this is real time and not turn based, because that's what the original concept at Westwood was going to be, is how do we make strategy games more exciting, thinking about the turn based examples that there'd been, how do we make it faster and more engaging. So you looked at various sources. Saw something flash over there, didn't you? Let's get someone up there to see if there's anything in that direction. I can see. Let's move this one over here. I'm gonna build that radar station. Let's just see if there's anything else that we can build. Oh, there was. Hang on. So what was that on our list? The light vehicle factory that I had to put in as copy protection. And we've got also a silo. So I think that function is just allows you to store more spice. If you get to a certain point where you are collecting more spice than the refineries can handle, then you don't get paid for it. So that's where a storage silo comes in handy. I think we're just doing concrete at the moment, aren't we?
Construction complete.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I will pop a... Actually, what I will do...
Construction complete.
I found my initial instinct was to group all the structures very close together, to maximise what I could get on the rock outcrops. But that also means that vehicles have trouble pathfinding around them to get to where they need to go. So I tend to leave little spaces of one concrete slab between certain things to allow some traffic flow. So this is going to be our radar, and I'll place that, and hopefully you'll immediately see what the effect of that is. A slow but steady tick down of money as our project nears completion.
Construction complete.
Fab. So that's our radar outpost, so let's see what happens.
Radar activated.
Here you go, so the mini-map lights up and it shows us more of the immediate area, and it will also track anywhere that we go. So if I send a trooper off to, say, down here, not only will we see it on the main play map, it will also appear on our radar screen, and we can keep an eye on where our troops are, because we'll be able to see little pixels of our colour in different areas. I think, yeah, there you go. So you can drag the rectangle around to have a look at that area of the map too, which is a handy feature. So you can see how easy and kind of intuitive and adaptable this already is. I think that's probably part of the success and the legacy of this game is is that it really nailed user friendliness in its design. So yeah, I don't feel particularly threatened by anything at the moment. So let's just chill out here, let the harvester harvest, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of the game. So as I'd alluded to before, Westwood looked at different sources. They were, I think they were tinkering with the idea of how to make an more exciting strategy game, in their opinion, before they were approached by Martin Alpo of Virgin, who had acquired the license to make Dune games. And that's not just Dune based on the Frank Herbert novel from 1960, let me look at my notes, 1965, I think, yes. Yeah, it was published as a complete novel in 1965. So not just that novel, but also the 1984 film adaptation directed by David Lynch, because that was where the video game, the interactive adaptation rights were all tied up. So Martin Alpert independently acquired those because he really enjoyed the Dune novel, and eventually approached Westwood to make a game based on it. And they seized on the strategic element, because that is a large part of the first novel, especially, is that the central conflict is around control of this one sort of galactic resource that allows interstellar travel, spice. It also allows lots of other things, and has some rather wild psychological, I guess, yeah, kind of fantastically psychic effects, including access to genetic memory and lots of crazy things that don't really make scientific sense as we understand them, but definitely bring lots of ideas to the table. I'm going to make the pun, in a melange that's quite a rich one in the novel. So that's an interesting aspect, but they've treated it purely on the economic, strategic combat level, and I just picked the spice is lost. I need storage. Okay, thank you. These helpful hints up the top are very useful. So we'll get some more buildings going. Yeah, so there are quite a few antecedents to this game. It certainly wasn't the first strategy game to take place in real time, not by any means. So ones that are mentioned by members of the team who made the game are Rescue Raiders, Military Madness and Civilization, but also things that possibly had an influence, or certainly were forerunners of similar concepts, were SimCity and Populous, Modem Wars, and for the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, Herzog Zwei. And this, I guess, in coming full circle, really, this game was eventually ported to the Genesis Mega Drive as well. So it kind of ended up back there where Herzog Zwei had been.
Construction complete.
So I don't think at the moment we're not having a lot of trouble getting to where we need to go. I think you'll notice that we can build even more now. So we can get an infantry barracks, and we can get a light vehicle factory. So that would help us to build up numbers of troops and vehicles that we can deploy if we need to defend or attack anywhere. But at the moment we're going for this storage silo. So I'm going to be a little cautious with the spend at the moment, because I guess we need enough storage to be able to get to the right amount of cash.
Construction complete.
But also, if I go spending and building lots, then it will just take a long time to get there. So that's one of... Sorry Harvester, you were going to cut through there, weren't you? One of the strategic concerns that you have to bear in mind. Yeah, so there were lots of influences that had gone into this game, I think, and the success that it brought was refining them to a very easy to navigate menu system, and having
harvester deployed.
Thanks. Having kind of the nuance, the detail, the nuance, and the flexibility to to have a depth of gameplay that is quite absorbing. Really, I found you can keep playing this game for a very long time trying to get through a mission, and I've hardly noticed the time pass. It's quite absorbing mechanically, so I think it's a real success from that point of view. And as an adaptation of the novel Dune, it certainly does a good job of putting forward the part of the narrative that is about inter-house conflict. It's about the dynasties, because that is an important aspect of the original Dune novel, and as they go forward as well. It's about power structures and economics. It's about resource stripping, although I don't know how this game deals with any consequences of that. I suspect it doesn't really. I think conquest is the sole aim and criteria really for anything in this game. The ecological aspects of the novel of Dune, the psychedelic aspects of the novel of Dune, they're not really in play here, which is absolutely fine. This game has stripped back what it needs from the premise and what it needs from the mechanics, and it works. And that's absolutely fine. I think there's an interesting way in which it does reflect one of the themes of the novel, in that it's forcing you to be self-reliant. You are micromanaging all the aspects of this production, its defense and attack. You're often commanding individual units to go to certain places, perform certain actions. You're overseeing all the building. I think we should get another silo. Let's do that. Yeah, and so that self-reliance is something that's built into the universe of Dune, really, as a philosophy, essentially. The mentats. So we don't see a lot of the different kind of, I guess, what's the word? Not quite guilds. There are guilds, but the kind of different cultures, I suppose, that have significant impact on the universe of Dune. The mentats are one, and they're essentially people who have trained themselves to be biological computers. Essentially, they are data storage and analysis people, because artificial intelligence is forbidden in this universe after a bad experience where people gave up making their own decisions. So the mentats take it upon themselves to be computers, and interestingly, another faction, the Bene Gesserit, who I don't think appear in this game, although they are mentioned in the introduction to the manual. They in the book are capable of controlling their bodily functions to a very fine degree, to an extent to which we are not normally conscious of our bodies, which is a very interesting reflection of that same kind of theme. And I think in this game, having you pay so much attention to every aspect of what you're doing, there's very little automation in play. There's a little bit of AI in terms of how the vehicles behave, which is kind of interesting and contrary to what is actually happening in the universe of Dune. But yeah, you are relying on your own abilities to manage all aspects of this endeavour. So I think we might get to our target. Let's see. Oh, we were very close. Let's see if so I think when you build these storage things, spice is equally distributed between them automatically, which is a very helpful feature. I think we've got plenty of room for the small amount that we need to get to 2,600, I believe it was. So I think we're going to get through this quite breezily. which is nice. I saw a flicker of something there, didn't you? Interesting. I've definitely played this mission before, where there is an enemy presence on the map, and if they might not realise you're there during the course of your harvesting, but if they do, then you start getting in trouble, and you might need to have built those extra troops and extra vehicle units. So yeah, let's just return. You can return the harvest automatically. I think that will give us enough money to complete this mission, and we can move on to the third. Maybe when we get into a little
mission is complete.
Thanks. Get into a little bit of combat, we can. Our effort to maintain fair play on this planet is opposed by both the Ordos and the Harkonnen. The spice that you collected will help us greatly in our efforts. Thanks. You, I suppose it should be needless to say, but you do get. See, look how well the enemy was doing. That might affect my score. They got loads, but we got what we needed to. So I'm happy with that. Sand Warrior. Yes, so as I was saying, if we get into combat, Atreides captured more territory and drove the Ordos out. We did. Ordos headed for the Harkonnens. Harkonnens expanded their borders. Ooh, okay. Select your next region. It gives you an interesting route of 3, so I don't think I've played on any of these maps before. I'm going to go for the corner one, I think. Yeah, so before I was really interrupted by... I'm really interrupted again. The battle with the other houses has intensified, and we are now forced to engage in some selected offensive manoeuvres. The Harkonnen are being extremely troublesome in your next region. We must ask that you remove their presence from the area. Right, so one of the things I was going to say is it goes without saying that depending on which house you pick, you get a different mentat. Cyril I find rather more polite than some of the others I've encountered. Okay, let's pause things here for a sec. So I can say that we're very likely to get into combat in this particular mission. During that, we can talk about some more aspects of the game. So I'm gonna save this one just in case. So you can save it very simply there. Be straight back into the game, which is that flexibility is also a really welcome feature. So you can see you start off with the same resources again. Let's build some concrete.
Construction complete.
Oh, hello. Sandworms. Did you see the sand moving? I think we're going to have some sandworm interference in this particular mission.
Construction complete.
So I think if this follows
Construction complete.
the same as the Amiga version, you can't... Oh no, it's more flexible? No, it's not. You can't build where something is on that square, so you have to move your vehicle out of the way if your vehicle is where you want to build. Which is only a minor frustration really in the scheme of things, but
complete.
Worth noting. So we're going to follow the same pattern. We get harvesting. And so the first time I played the third mission as House Ordos, I got really stuck and I had to play many iterations across several hours to get to a finishing point. Also, let's build more stuff.
Construction complete.
So I'm not necessarily going for a win on this this mission at this time of play.
Construction complete.
Because this is kind of to show you what the game is like, and to talk about it. And I think I might refer to some of the footage from my other playthroughs as well as we go.
Construction complete.
So what's interesting about the
Construction complete.
kind of the meta narrative of this game is that
Construction
this
complete.
wasn't the only Dune game commissioned by Martin Alper for Virgin Games. He'd previously approached Cryo Interactive with the same license, but when unhappy with the production of that particular game, he decided to cancel it and offer the opportunity to Westwood, who'd impressed him with their Eye of the Beholder dungeon crawler game, which was a licensed Dungeons and Dragons first-person dungeon crawler in the mode of Dungeon Master. And this is where they went with it. But because Cryo were under the wing of Virgin, but they were under the wing of the French branch, Virgin Loisir, and their manager there was kind of happy for them to keep working on the game on Virgin's payroll, even though they do not have official permission to, and were not necessarily likely to be able to release the game. So Dune 1 was still in progress even as Dune 2 was being made, and that's how they ended up being released when Virgin were ultimately happy to release both games, so happy with the quality of both. And so as you can see, the Emperor is pitting house against house to mine this valuable resource. It's hard not to see the mirror with the real life circumstance at Virgin at this time. So you can see there the sand wriggling. That's the sandworm, which can appear at any point and just to swallow something up. If you have strategically placed troops and vehicles, then they can guard against it, and they will start shooting the sandworms often. Okay, so the harvester is harvesting, which is lovely. It's generally useful to know where the enemy is, so what you can do is send a scout off across the map on like a dummy run first time, just so you know, because it will be the same if you restart the mission. And then you restart, and what you do is you don't go there before you're ready. You don't aggro the competitor in the area before you've built up a considerable body of military force that you can attack with. Because in this game, structures take a long time to be destroyed until you have some of the heavier weaponry, which you certainly don't have with these kind of vehicles and these foot troops. So do we need a... What have I built already? Have I got the radar station? I haven't. Let's do that. So what I'll do is I'll get the radar going. Everything seems pretty nice and friendly at the moment. So you're probably going to want at least a couple of spice refineries chugging along, so you can keep building, keep repairing, which becomes an important part of the game too, at least in my experience. So I mean, it's not showing there's a deposit over there.
Harvester deployed.
So maybe we should build a path up there. At any point we could come into contact with the enemy, and if at that point we haven't really got enough defense for our base, we could be in trouble. So I think I'm going to head for a light vehicle factory next. I've got to bear in mind that I might run out of power resource soon as well. So probably a light vehicle factory and a wind trap power station would be useful. Oh, hello! We just got some extra troops flying in. That's very handy. It does. The game does help you out a little bit in that way.
Construction complete.
Also, it will not help you out because enemies can just drop a carrier full of
Construction complete.
combatants right on your doorstep as well. And
Warning. Harkonnen unit approaching.
there you go.
Construction complete.
Okay, I don't know where they're coming from, but I'm going to keep building. I do find the battle music a bit too intense, personally. I can't see where. Can you see where they are? Oh, there they are. Hi guys. I haven't normally seen the red ones because I've been House Ordos defending against House Atreides in most of my playthrough. So let's get some quads over there because they're going to be a bit more hardy, I think, than the trikes. I think as House Atreides I've got a bit more firepower at my disposal than I had as House Ordos, so that's helpful. These guys do seem to have some kind of rocket launcher or something, which is not great. You can click on a unit and you can see how much damage it's taken. You can't repair an individual unit, you can repair bases, and that has a cost, obviously. So needed 80, up at 97, so we're kind of on a good level for that. So let's have a look at the if you have a look at the picture of the construction itself, if you've got an option of things you can build, then you get that shown here. So we can build quads, which is handy. So we might go for those as the more substantial vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Let's get these guys to attack because they don't seem to have realised what's going on particularly. So yeah, we might be in a bit of trouble now if
Enemy unit destroyed. Enemy unit destroyed.
oh, there's a little fanfare there. Right, so next up we're going to get a concrete slab because we love concrete around here. Yeah, so what I'll do is my plan is to build over in here. I'll build another wind trap and then another refinery close to where I can see this deposit spices. And what I will do is I'll be showing you some footage of my one of my other playthroughs
Harkonnen unit approaching.
where there is so I'm on level 4, mission 4 for House Ordos, and I'm competing against House Atreides, but lo and behold, who's this? The Emperor sends his own troops, so he's not playing fairly, which I think reflects interestingly on the meta narrative of surrounding this game as well. Purples? Sardauka, the Imperial. Why are the Imperial troops here? The Emperor's not playing fair. This is pretty shifty of the game. I will be honest. This is pretty darn shifty. Introducing a third party. My goodness. You were not invited to the party. Hello, so we're back, and as you can see and hear probably, in the time it's taken me to get the wind trap and the second refinery in place, we've been inundated with enemy vehicles, quite a lot of quads there, and some troops on foot as well. They're doing some substantial damage to my resources, as you might expect. Let's repair the vehicle factory. Oh, I've got hardly any money left. That's not helpful. So yeah, if you're not careful, you kind of get into this situation where your money has ticked down and you are in trouble, because you're needing to repair your facilities quite heavily or build new units to defend yourself, and that's just not possible with the resources that you have at your disposal.
Atreides unit destroyed.
I think the guard range for your units is quite narrow, perhaps narrower than you might think it would be. So you do need to keep an eye on what they're up to. So that's 67% full, 23% full. I did notice that now there are lots of units on screen. The game does seem to be moving a bit slower than it was before, which is not great. I think I'm going to lose this.
Atreides unit destroyed.
Lose that refinery, aren't we? So things go badly very quickly here. We'll get that harvester to return, and we'll see if we can. There you go. You get that pretty effective screen shake when the base is destroyed. Luckily, it disgorges some troops, so you kind of got an extra layer of defense there.
Atreides unit destroyed.
But yeah, they're destroying me. So I would guess that the Harkonnen are to the south somewhere. Perhaps not very far to the south even, given that there's so many of them here. I guess we could, if this is going to be kind of a last-ditch attempt to find out what's going on, we can move a unit down south here, see if it reveals anything useful. Appears to be an enemy unit over this side as well. Is that true? Not that I can see. Interesting. This one, is this return? Well done. That seemed to have forgotten what I told it to do, which is not very helpful. So yeah, so the money's run out here, and this quad's going to very slowly move its way through the sand. So this is, yeah, so had I successfully got through the construction phase, well, look at these troops. They're definitely down this way. We'd be moving on to more of a joint defend and attack phase. So I'd have more money in the bank, hopefully, and a constant stream of income, and I'd be defending these bases. I'd be repairing them as we went with the money I had. And pumping out new attack units at the same time, but that's not really gonna happen in this round that we're playing here. But let's just see if we can push through and find any. No. In my experience, the enemy bases do tend to be at the edges of maps. And the fact that there's an enemy unit there makes me think we might be close.
Warning, Harkonnen unit approaching.
Reporting.
Atreides unit destroyed. Atreides harvester deployed.
So this is kind of the exploration mission that you can do at the start, and I'd probably recommend doing that. If I'd been successful in having enough resources to keep going, yeah, I'd be kind of moving to the second mode, which is where you're repairing and building offensive units, both to defend your base and to attack the enemy, and just keep sending wave after wave at them until eventually you destroy their base. So I'm not quite sure where this Harkonnen base is. Let's try this central island here. I mean, if they're there, that would make a lot of sense as to why we're under such heavy attack so early. So, I mean, we're kind of at a loss here anyway, because we don't have a construction yard, so we have no ability to build anything new.
Atreides unit destroyed.
We could upgrade this. I wonder what we get from upgrading. I think we can build the quad then, maybe? So individual constructs do sometimes have an upgrade ability, at which point you can build more advanced units from it. I do like a good quad. So how's this one doing? Is it still surviving? It's nice. Okay, so not quite sure where the other harvester is. So this one I kind of sent off to the edge of the map there.
Harvester deployed.
Oh, I think we're filling up. Oh,
Warning. Harkonnen unit
Oh.
approaching.
okay. Wow, that was catastrophic. Yeah, so this is kind of what happened. This is how it looks when it's going wrong, basically. Yeah, I don't think they're here. You know, haven't got the radar to refer to anymore, so that makes it a little more tricky. I mean, they could be down here. Maybe they're.
Atreides unit destroyed.
Yeah, it's hard to know. So you do
Atreides unit destroyed.
tend to have to play it quite a few times to get the lay of the land. I think especially at this point in the strategy, and there are 9 stages of
Destroyed.
growing complexity. So what I'll do is that we're going to follow this one through to its conclusion, at which point you get to see what happens when you're not successful in a mission. And then what I'll do is I'll switch you to a rundown of how I completed this mission for House Ordos, from one of the I showed at one of the streams I was where I was exhibiting the game. So we'll switch to that in a minute. So you can see when you're overwhelmed, things quickly go badly. I don't know whether the Harkonnens have more firepower with their quads, but they seem to be destroying buildings a lot quicker than I was, or the House Atreides was, at the point at which we were competing for resources together. Let's try over. Let's try right at the bottom. It's possible they might be down there. So as soon as all the buildings are gone, that's game over for whoever's lost their sites, which I think is going to be us in just a moment. We'll scroll back down to where the get my arrow up to where the quad is, just to see if it gets to anything interesting. We might just be able to see that before the end of the mission.
You have failed your mission.
Oh dear. Nothing more condemning. It is a cruel world, is it not? Oh, this is a less interesting. This is a less explicit battle scene than you get in the Amiga version. I'm not sure if I was expecting divine intervention, but as I watched your defeat, I could not help thinking how unfair it was. Oh, Cyril, you are a friend. So the interesting thing is that the world map does change. As a result, you lose that area, but you get another go. So I'm wondering if maybe you get like three strikes and you're out kind of deal to prove yourself before you can move on to the next objective. That would kind of make sense. So that's what happens there. So yeah, I'm going to switch over to that other footage now. So there we go. So you can see this is my base here. So this is a really late stage of the mission. It did take me like an hour and 20 minutes, I think, to get there in the end. What I'd done is I decided to build, you just saw there, I decided to build spice refineries far off to the east, to try and avoid the notice of the Atreides, who are the competitors on this map. Build up my resources so that I could just keep churning out these vehicles that you see, the trikes, and just keep sending them to where I knew their base to be. And it took like probably like seven trikes over about the course of 5 minutes just to destroy one installation, I'd say. And I probably by this point I've probably destroyed about 6 installations easily. There's just a couple of spice silos to go. So for what felt like a very long time, I was just sort of toggling backwards and forwards between my base, where I was mostly just repairing the things that were under attack, because there were these kind of immovable bank of quads that I couldn't quite overcome, and occasionally building new trikes. I try and prioritise sending them up to the enemy base if I could, but I'd also try and fill in where I needed a little bit of extra protection around my base. And because damage is so slow to be sustained against any of these structures in either way, so against mine or against theirs, you can afford to leave them for a few minutes before coming back to repair them. But it was kind of a switch between checking on where the harvesters has ended up, because I'd ended up with, I think, 4 spice refineries in the end. One here that you can see on the screen right now, near my initial base, and I think 3 off to the east, one slightly spaced away from the other 2, which worked pretty well in the early game, but when there was lots of spice close by them, but not so well afterwards. And yeah, so you can see me, I periodically come back to make sure that they were still attacking things, because I wasn't quite sure. The visual indications aren't quite there to show whether the vehicles are constantly attacking, or whether they sort of do it for a while, then get a bit bored and decide to do something else. So I was never quite too sure about that. I don't know if I think that I'd made the discovery on stream at one point, but I think my most joyous discovery in this process was finding out that you can use the harvesters to run over troops who aren't in a vehicle. If they're just a single troop or a squad of 3 troops, they're just sort of walking around, you can just get your harvester and move it manually over them, and it will just run them down, which was interesting that you could use it in that tactical way. But otherwise, I found it this level a real grind just to get through, because I was sort of playing it cautiously initially, and I thought, well, no, I've got to go in hard on the attack. So what I did was build trikes as soon as I could, rather, and sent them right up to their base. But then that just drew their fire, and they were already better equipped and better armed than I was, so they just took me out on those runs. So I did a little bit of research into the game to see if I was missing anything in particular, and it seems that House Ordos, who I've picked, are probably the not the easiest ones to start the game with. They don't seem to have the strong offensive options that House Harkonnen or House Atreides do, so I'd hampered myself there. There you go, I successfully cleared the mission, because the silos eventually fell. So all I had to do was destroy their structures, but not all their troops. So here you'll see my congratulations from my mentat. So yeah, there's a little suggestion of story between missions here, so that there was some that I've got to lay my moral objections aside to be ruthless in battle. So that's kind of gives it a little bit of interesting colour anyway. But otherwise, it's quite an abstract thing that you're doing. So I proceed. I think I can enter my score here. It gives me a bit of a rundown on how I did. So you can see that as well. There you go, Sand Warrior. I think I might have been a Sand Warrior already. I'm not sure. These stats are going to be pretty close, I think, when we have a look at them. Yeah, so I harvested a tiny bit more than the enemy, and they destroyed far more of my things than I destroyed of theirs, apart from buildings, I suppose. And yeah, you see it's 1 hour and 21 minutes it took me to do the complete run through of that. And that's how that one goes. So I'll round out with a few more thoughts about the game while footage plays out beneath of me attempting the 3rd mission for House Atreides again, for the DOS version. one of the notable things about the original novel Dune is the attention to detail that's gone into creating the universe, and specifically the planet of Arrakis. And part of that's through the text of the story itself, and part of it's sort of external to the main narrative. It's in the detailed appendices that the book has, and there's quite a believable and detailed map at the beginning of the book too. I think that it's interesting that in this adaptation and in the Cryo adaptation of Dune, they both sort of reflect those elements. There's an in-world encyclopedia, and there's sort of an overworld map in this one, and there also is in Cryo's Dune as well. They both have slightly different applications, but they're both there, both as touchstones for the detail of the world, and they only detail as much as that game world needs. But it's interesting that they are both there. It's worth mentioning that House Ordos, which appears here, is only otherwise found in the apocryphal 1984 Dune Encyclopedia. It doesn't come from any of the novels, doesn't come from the film, so that's an injection of something else entirely, just for this adaptation of the source material. And further to that, besides only relating to part of the novel, really, this game doesn't particularly draw on anything from the film, which is interesting. I mean, so I'm kind of looping back around and doing my introduction now, but the reason I've come to look at some Dune games is because at the time of recording, a new film adaptation of Dune is being released. So it's interesting that the previously licensed game from the previously licensed film adaptation of Dune isn't really relevant to this adaptation at all. It's kind of reflected in the Cryo one. They use some likenesses of actors from the film, and they kind of use some sort of places and situations, but also they meld that with a lot of their own. So it has an interesting effect, and is a presence to some extent there, but it's completely absent here as far as I can tell. There are only passing similarities that you might get from having coincidentally adapted the source material anyway. You can see from the footage that this mission is proven to be quite difficult. I found mission 3 in the other playthrough to be particularly difficult as well, quite a spike in difficulty. I don't know if it's the only one in the game, but it's a notable one for sure. From the first two missions, which can be very straightforward to complete, this requires managing resources in the correct way rather quickly to avoid getting into an unwinnable situation. You can see from my mapping attempts that the spice resources actually are quite scarce from where we are when we start off, and the enemy is quite far away, but they seem to have quite an extended range, so they come and find you quite quickly. Overall, my thoughts on the game are that it's a satisfying loop of gameplay for sure. It's absolutely solidly built, and you're always wanting to do the next thing. You're always planning ahead, and you've started construction on something, so even if you get interrupted by needing to repair something or dealing with an attack somewhere, your brain is ticking over what you're going to do next, and that drives you forward, which is quite compelling from moment to moment gameplay. I think where that falls down for me, just as on a personal level, for the games I like to play, is that it becomes a very extended experience, especially when you get to this third mission, and from then on you're in quite a protracted building stage, and then you're in quite a protracted combat stage, and both draw out quite a long time, and I think I respond better to a snappier kind of gameplay where you perhaps the chance, if you manage your resources right, to escalate to kind of a game-winning level of technology that could definitively sway the balance. But it's more of a grind and a chip away at each other in this game, and it certainly doesn't show any advantage to war. War is a necessary part of the game as it presents the situation, but there's no economic benefit to it. It eats up money and resources, which I think is a kind of a fair stance. I do like how as it gets more strategic and you have more options, there are kind of little emergent stories of where you send particular parties off to different areas of the map and they encounter different things. That personalises it and makes more of a story of the game as well, because otherwise it's very bare bones in that department as well. You get a little update from your mentat between missions, which kind of gives you what the house's strategic and moral imperative is, I'd say, as they progress. But essentially, despite the difference in attitude, the actions are the same. The actions you're going to have to perform each mission are the same. They're still as destructive and commandeering as any other house. So it's entirely a matter of perspective, which is an interesting thing the game's also doing, as it's already at the front badged up the apparent moral values of each of the houses, but in effect they are all doing the same thing to each other and to the planet Arrakis. So that's interesting, but I think I'd have more incentive to play on if it was, as I mentioned earlier, a little bit snappier to play. Otherwise it's quite hard to get through a gameplay sequence. And also if it was more narratively driven, in the sense that perhaps there was more character and a little bit more intrigue perhaps as we went through. But it's absolutely a solid game, and one I would recommend to anybody who feels like they would enjoy this kind of gameplay. And frankly, there are so many examples of this since Dune II, and so many other games in which similar mechanics have been employed, even if they're not strictly following the model as laid down here. I think you probably well know if you would like this type of game. I think the real tragedy of this being a Dune adaptation, as well as for its predecessor, the Cryo version of Dune, is that neither of them are commercially available at the moment, and that's got to be down to licensing above everything else. So that even though the source material provided a rich basis for two very interesting games, they neither of them are currently available to buy because they were based on a pre-existing copyrighted work of art. So that's kind of one of these interesting interdependencies of adaptation. I have been making a video of Cryo's Dune as well, so if you're interested in the comparison, I'd check that one out too, and see what you think about the two of them. There are definitely things they do in common, and there are quite a lot of points of divergence. I think Cryo's Dune tries to cover a lot more of the diverse range of ideas and textures that there are in the novel. But Dune 2 knows exactly what it wants and what it's going for, and it executes it very well. So on that basis, it's a solid recommendation from me. So I hope this has been enlightening if you're not familiar with Dune, or perhaps a good way to reflect upon it if you are. And thank you very much for joining. If you like the video, please feel free to like it. If you'd like to know when more videos go live, feel free to subscribe. And until next time, take care. Bye bye.